JP.
Right, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to James Redmond TV and welcome to another live stream. If you are enjoying the morning live streams, as I am, then do smash a like and leave feedback in the comments down below. Breaking news, not news that we would have wanted to wake up to either, chat. Jurgen Klopp had his press conference this morning, and every single week on JRTV, I'm expecting to do these Jurgen Klopp press conference reactions. We did one last week. And then we have one this week, and I'd say arguably, last week was mainly about Endo, whereas this week we're more talking about the Salah rumours. So Klopp responded to the Salah rumours, which is going to be a main topic in this video, and then also an injury update. And in case the title didn't give it away, it's not one that I think that you'll all enjoy. So first and foremost, we'll get into that before we touch anything about Salah, because we've talked loads about Salah. So we'll just we'll do this one by one, slowly. And we'll embrace it together and we'll try our best, and we're just going to try and really sort ourselves out. This is the first piece of news of the day as well, chat. Big up to everyone who's tuned in this early. I know it's a very, very early morning stream. But yes, came out. Jurgen Klopp, that was his response because he was asked about an injury update, as he always is. Trent obviously had a little bit of a problem in the last game. He's fine. He's going to play. Thiago, he's going to be available from Monday, so he won't be available for the Newcastle game. However, he will be available from Monday. No mention of Bajcetic, which just means he's fully back, so at least that's a positive. And Ibu is a doubt. So it doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't sound the worst, but even him being a doubt is a problem. No, because think about it, chat. We need Ibu. And if Ibu isn't playing, then we've got a huge problem, a massive problem on our hands, where if Ibu is not playing on that pitch, you're now relying on Joel Matip or Joe Gomez, who, whenever they've stepped into the back line, on their best day, they can look like a world-class centre-back. But on the days that they've been showing as of late, it's not really been looking like the best centre-back partnership or the best, even when they stick next to Virgil van Dijk. Matip's looked a little bit shaky at times, to say the least, and then you can also say the very same thing about Joe Gomez. So I'm sitting there, chat, a little bit concerned regarding this news about Ibu KONATE, and I hope that it increases the urgency over a centre-back as well, by the way, because I think that's important. Of course, there's been links with Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen, and there was reports the other day, and apparently, according to Shannon, big up to Shannon as well. He came out and said that Borussia Mönchengladbach expect Liverpool to make an offer in the upcoming days by the ever-reliable Christian Falk. So that's important as well, innit? Because Christian Falk, usually when he's reporting something, especially on Bundesliga news, it's one to keep an eye out on. We know that Hincapié wants to come to the Premier League, and we know that it's an estimated £35 million, which would make Borussia Mönchengladbach pull, or should I say nudge. So that's something to consider. At least I haven't watched much of this player, so I couldn't tell you if he'd be the guy. But I'll tell you now, it's better to go and get him in than nobody. And if he is seen as a top prospect and he is rated highly in that league, that seems to be where our bread is buttered at the moment. So listen, we'll probably have to go there. Have a little look at the options, and that'll probably be one of the best ones when you consider the price. And most centre-backs nowadays, especially with people knowing the funds that we've got, it's about 50 million to 200 million, you know what I mean? It's like you're not getting anything less. So 35 million would be a great offer. But let me know what you think, though, chat, because as we know, it's not ideal. That's KONATE, not Hincapié. Oh, is that KONATE? My bad. I was mentioning Hincapié, though. Hincapié plays for Leverkusen, doesn't he? Hincapié is still being reported by Falk to want a Premier League move, at least. But you're right, though. There is KONATE news. There is Gravenberch news. We'll touch on that as well. But this is purely and primarily about the press conference. So that's why I talked about the KONATE thing there first. My bad. I read that wrong. So that weren't about Hincapié, the one from Shannon. But Hincapié has been talked about at the club recently. Nat Phillips, Virgil, Konate, Gomez. Now you tell me what type of defender we're missing. Carmel, what type of defender we're missing? Nah, Carmel's joking here, isn't he? An injury-free defender would be one. Virgil's fine. Nat, I don't think any of us, even though he was quality a couple of seasons ago, I don't think any of us want to go with the solution of putting Nat Phillips as our main starting centre back. I'll be honest with you, but you know the score. Who knows? Yeah, that's the one attribute not many of those centre backs contain is the fitness. You know what I mean? Newcastle versus Liverpool will be a game to watch out for. I think it can be a classic, this game. I think that us and Newcastle, especially back in the 90s, we used to have masterclass games. So that's why I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this one turns out. But yes, now just quickly to talk on Salah, because before I touch on anything else, I want to let you know about what Klopp had to respond to the Salah news that broke yesterday. So first of all, he was talking about the fact that Liverpool haven't even received an offer from the club. The news seems to be that Mohamed Salah was the one who received an offer. So what Etihad are trying to do is agree personal terms before they agree terms with the club. Something better than what we did with Caicedo, I'll tell you that for free. So already, even though they're only new at spending and shit, they're well better at doing it than us, because they'll at least agree personal terms. But he was asked about it, and he was saying, like, listen, I don't know how serious it is, because we haven't had an offer, so it's not really much for me to entertain. But he did respond in by saying if there would be something for Salah, so an offer for Salah, the answer would be no. Big fat N-O. So you're telling me 200 million, yeah? 200 million, and you're saying no? Nah, we wouldn't get 200 million. But let's say 100 million, 120 million for a 31-year-old. Is that making FSG think about it? And as we know, Klopp doesn't have in control of the ins and outs. So the club must have relayed this information to him. Like, listen, we're not going to sell. So when you go in the press conference, just know we're not going to sell. Because how does Klopp know? Because he's not the only one who makes the controlling decisions, which then I'll use that logic onto you when you sit there and say, oh, yeah, Klopp replace Milner, Endo, and Fabinho with Endo. You know what I mean? Like, Endo should have just been one of the plans. The club should have said, you can have Endo, but we're also going to get you someone else, because regardless whether you like it or you don't, we get a lot of injuries, so we need to accommodate that. That's just incompetence at the top, though. That's just incompetence at the top. Salah is staying, right. So, yes. Right now, yes. Right now, I am very confident in saying that he's staying. And if I had to put money on the line, if I was going to be there and be a bit risky, I would say that he's going to stay even throughout. But one thing to take into consideration is, there's an offer on the table that Salah hasn't turned down yet. So there's a big offer from Etihad that Salah hasn't said no to, basically. But I don't think he'll go and start pushing out a move, but it's a possibility if the offer's tempting enough. So that's one factor. Second factor is, there was another factor that I was going to bring up. What was it? That's one of them, though. That's one of them. There was another one that I was going to mention, but for some reason it's... Oh, yeah, and the Saudi window is open 3 weeks longer. So people will say to me, James, the window's only open for 7 more days. He's not going to go. Their window's open for 3 weeks longer than our window, so they've got plenty of time to get deals done, and they don't need to rush. And maybe if we have a bad start to the season, which we haven't so far, and I'm actually confident about our game against Newcastle, and there will be a preview on the channel today regarding that. But yes, say if we go and lose Newcastle, say we go and lose the game after. Now we've won 1 game, drew 1, lost 2. Say if Salah's not happy and he's not seeing any change and we haven't made many signings, who's to say that he won't try and push for a move? And I don't think he will, because I don't think that's his character. That being said, it doesn't mean it's impossible, and that's also important to take into consideration. And what's today's news is not tomorrow's news. That's my favourite saying. Aquila! Klopp looked very unhappy and shocked. Regarding what? Aquila, what are you talking about specifically? Are you talking about the squad situation? Are you talking about salary? Are you talking about KONATE? But they were the 2 main talking points. Everything else was just mainly like thoughts. He was asked about Endo again. But otherwise, it was a lot shorter. We can also touch on what he said about McAllister, about the thing being overturned, the decision of him being allowed to play. This is what he said. He was asked about it. He said, we can make the point really clear. The pitches were clear. Everyone agrees that it was not a red card and should not be a red card. It was not a harsh tackle, and it was just a touch in a situation. So that was the brief explanation behind that, because I think when you sit there and you see McAllister cards like that being given, I think you need to really ask about the FA. So I think Klopp was just trying to be sort of unresponsive to something that has now been resolved. You get what I mean? And thankfully it was resolved, because typically it doesn't usually happen. Harsh Singh says Newcastle will be tough, bro. They press very high and will finish their chances. So if they play like they did against Bournemouth, Newcastle will beat Liverpool comfortably. I don't think they will. I think you're overestimating Newcastle slightly. They can beat Liverpool comfortably, and they do play difficult. But I think in recent months, chat WRL, didn't Newcastle have a bit of a end of the season, like a bit of a downward trajectory towards the end of last season? I know Bruno Guimaraes has been a little bit in and out at times for them as well. And I do think they'll come back. I do think Eddie Howe will get a tune out of them this season. But I don't think they'll be as good this season as they was last season. And I don't think they're going to get better, funnily enough. I think they're going to probably be around a Europa League team this season, if I'm going to try and predict anything. So that's why I'm going to propose the question. Well, if they haven't been as good in recent months, then we're just looking at the Newcastle that finished fourth based on the great form that they had prior to those decent months. So they can win, but let's just not overestimate them, because let's not give them too much respect. Because, you don't want to do that. You've got to know who you are as well. And, I still look at our team and I look at theirs, and I still think we've been together longer. We've got higher quality players. They're doing well, but they're on their journey. They're on their upward trajectory. We've got winners in our team. You know what I'm saying? We need to go in. And plus, Jurgen Klopp, it was mentioned in the press conference, get on this, Jurgen Klopp has beat no other manager more than Eddie Howe. He's got like 11 wins over Eddie Howe, which is mad, to be fair, because the one game where I think of Eddie Howe and Jurgen Klopp was the Bournemouth 4-3, and then Jurgen Klopp mentions it, and I was like, was that the only time that Eddie Howe beat him? So yeah, that's an interesting fact for you as well. Klopp has a great head-to-head record against Eddie Howe teams. KONATE injured, and Klopp still believes the team is going to be strong enough for the season ahead. But Joel, this is why I don't think that's the case. Joel, like, I understand Henderson, Milner, and Fabinho were like favourites in Klopp's mind, and they needed to go because they were old, but he was still willing to keep those three players. And how come it's logical to suggest that Jurgen Klopp came to the conclusion, okay, then let me get rid of those three players and then let me bring in Enzo? It just doesn't make sense. We've got to be careful where we attribute just the blame to Klopp. And if it is fully Klopp's fault, well, then who employs him? So either way, this has got to be something that's directed to something above Klopp. Klopp might not be helping the situation, but that doesn't mean people above can't be helping Jurgen Klopp. And that's why I've got a problem with this football club right now, because that's one of the things, like, it's bang on obvious, if there was no tomorrow, that we want to keep improving, and we want to make sure we don't fall into those injury-ridden seasons again. But think about it, brother. Like, you think about KONATE right now, and you think about the news that came out about Joe Gomez and Joel Matip in previous days. Well, those things were big pieces of news, because Joe Gomez came and spoke about his mental health. Why? Because the club asked him about it, and and they labelled it in mental health. And I do not dispute at all. Going through all those injuries, he's gone through something. In fact, I can 100% guarantee you he has. But at the same time, I'll sit there and I'll say, well, the club had to ask him the question to provoke the answer. And it's very ironic that before the end of the window, they're getting Joe Gomez and Joel Matip talking about the tough times that they've had recently and how they want to make a comeback. The timing's just convenient, Why didn't you do those interviews weeks and weeks ago during pre-season? Well, it's because we didn't know if we were going to get a centre-back or not. But now that we're approaching the end of the window, the club have probably came to the conclusion, like, we can probably work with what we've got. We can get top four with the things that we've got right now. But the fans might not be happy about that, so let's try and get them back on board with the Joel Matip and the Joe Gomez train. So I don't think Joe Gomez and Joel Matip's lying. I think they've gone through tough times, and I think they've been difficult, but I do think they were provoked by the club for the purpose that maybe fans will feel some sort of sympathy, and maybe it re-injects some sort of faith. We know how fickle fans can be, so if they hear a quote from a player like, I'm ready to come back, well, now the fans are thinking, well, he's ready to come back. This is his villain arc. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to touch this bastard this season. So don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying Joe Gomez hasn't been through anything, but it's very interesting that the club will provoke such questions to two injury-ridden centre-backs, And we haven't put a bid in for a centre-back this summer, and we haven't necessarily agreed personal terms with any centre-back. So they're also factors to take in. Has Gomez been hanging out with Dele Alli? I'm not too sure. Hopefully they're mates, you know what I mean? Wait, was that a thing about mental health? You are ruthless. You are ruthless. Now, big up to Dele Alli and Joe Gomez, man. Top 8, here we go. Oh, that was going to be the score last year, wasn't it, chat? We were going to be like the top 8 merchants. I was fully ready to embrace a no European season. Either Europa League or nothing. I didn't want to be in Conference League, Conference League. Feels like you're just in some Jag league there. Arthur, I'm at work and watching the channel. Klopp is partly to blame for the transfers. I agree. I 100% agree, by the way, not even question. Klopp confirmed it. Carragher confirmed it. Klopp has a lot of influence on the transfer window. How does Carragher know? I'm just asking you a question, Arthur. I think Klopp has more transfer influence than what he did previously. I don't think it's too much more, though. And I still think there's decisions the club has made that he hasn't. By the way, enjoy work. I hope you're having a boss day. But Carragher doesn't work at the club. He doesn't speak to Jurgen Klopp often. He's not really affiliated with the club like that, trust me. So he's not really going to have that inside information. He's a Sky Sports presenter. He's a Liverpool legend, and that's about as far as it goes in terms of his relationship with the club. So believe me, Carragher should not be your main source. And definitely don't take it as confirmation just because Carragher has the belief that Klopp has majority in control, because a lot of actions would suggest otherwise. Get the GOAT, Arthur Melo, back, bro, the king of Liverpool. And that. Do you know what? We miss him. How can we win a league title without Arthur Melo? How can we? Harsh. Wouldn't it be harsh to say that Arthur was a flop? Very harsh. And I know I just lost 10 subscribers, but just know I'm proud of that joke. That was boss. If Trent goes inverted, Matip will be roasted. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen, which is why we need a new centre-back now. Matip can't play that role where he's got all that space. KONATE has at least got the pace and the physicality to cover the yards. Whereas Joe Matip, it's just not the same thing at all, and it's not even close, by the way. Tony Hoare, big up to you, sir. James Matip and Gomez are a liability. I 100% agree. I think they are a liability by many standards, and that's why I'll sit there and I'll say, well, do you know what? Okay, then. This isn't good. They're not happy, but let's work with it, you know? But to not even replace them with anyone else, like not to get... Like, if you get Hincapié and you still favour Gomez and Matip above him, that's one thing. But to not even get that additional option is where I sit there and I struggle. Smash those likes, by the way, chat. I hope that you're enjoying these streams. I hope you're enjoying the press conference streams and stuff like that. Klopp, over the years, has become an FSG yes man. Love Klopp. He's a boss. I wish he could push back on his owners. This is always an interesting point when someone raises it, so I'm glad that you did Forever LFC. Try and look at it through my lens. Okay, then for you to not like Klopp being a yes man means you think that if he wasn't a yes man and he was a bit more, let's say, rebellious against the ownership and he questioned them more and he said, no, listen, we need to do this more, and he was a bit more authoritative, you think that's beneficial. Now, I think if Klopp has more control, I don't think that's beneficial. I think if Klopp has full control over transfers and he's getting FSG to bend over for him to be able to say, I want this player, this player, this player, I don't think we do too well. That's not what made him really good at Dortmund. What made him really good at Dortmund was a great scouting team that identified great talents like Ilkay Gundogan, like Marco Reus, like Robert Lewandowski. All these players who were certified legends in hindsight was not identified by Jurgen Klopp. It was identified by a great scouting team. The same way that a lot of the players like Mane, like Salah, these players were not identified personally by Jurgen Klopp. Why? Because it's a modern-day game where you're playing 2-3 games a week sometimes, and the manager is a coach. The coach has to coach the team. I don't want him sitting there back at home having German cigarettes and playing Football Manager, scouting for the next best thing. That's wasting time. It's energy taken. And also, I want him to focus on the crop of players that he's got. It's modern-day football. It's not like back in the day where, you know, you think about the Premier League top teams back in the day, they're only buying players within the vicinity of the UK. That's the players, that's the market. Whereas now, you've got to try and identify talents from the deep, dark roots of friggin' Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Germany. Jurgen Klopp can do a coaching role. You don't get him to do anything else. You don't get a basketballer to start at defence. He's a basketballer. He might be tall. He might be physical. He might have the attributes, but he's not a footballer. That's a problem. Jurgen Klopp is a coach. He's not a sporting director. He's not a scout. So I disagree. So even though you might be right, Klopp might be a bit of a rollover, I sit there and think, well, I don't want him having more control. I just want him to be a coach. I just want him to be accommodated with properly. Go and get a proper sporting director. Go and get someone who's going to be long-term. Someone on the level of Ralph Ragnick. Someone who's, you know, established at identifying certain things. Someone who's got the attributes and the experience and the know-how to go and identify certain targets. Does that make sense for Forever LFC? Oh my goodness, that was like a proper tongue twister then. Because I think that's where some people go wrong when they say like Klopp needs to go and bang on the door more, and I don't think he achieves much being a knobhead to his owners, like or to his bosses. But yeah, Kosai, big up to you. That's your opinion, James. You might be wrong. Klopp should demand, be rebellious. What is the point of having him at this point? What is the point of having Jurgen Klopp? Okay, that's an interesting question. Well, if you know your history, and I'm not questioning that you do or don't, I'm not expecting you to go back to the 60s and 70s when Shankly was here. But when Shankly was here in the 60s and 70s, he built a great team that was winning loads of things, and then he had a 7-year spell where he won nothing, right? Now, I'm not saying let's give Klopp 7 years and let him fuck up, but I'm sitting there and saying, well, think about if we had the same mentality back then through this, because what did Bill Shankly do? He kept hold of his old players for too long because he was too, what's the word I'm looking for? He was too loyal to them, probably blind loyalty, and he ends up staying for 7 more years without winning anything. And this is one of the greatest managers of all time. Now, here's what's important with Bill Shankly. He favoured his players too much, which kept them in the team. But then the second he started changing the team, what happened? He won trophies again. And then he built a long-term philosophy at the football club, which followed by Bob Paisley, who was his understudy. And then we had Fagan. And then we had Dalglish. And it was nothing but success. And think about this for a second, Kosai. Okay, Jurgen Klopp, you asked the question, what's the point in having him right now? That's where our short-term brains, our TikTok brains, where we used to just instant in an era where it's sack. Well, okay, then that means you think if we let go of Jurgen, there's somehow a solution. You said that's your opinion, James. You might be wrong. You're right. I might be wrong. Where's your premise to say that you're right? I at least try and give you reference. I try and say, well, I don't think Jurgen wanted Fabinho to go, and I don't think he wanted Milner to go, and I don't think he wanted Henderson to go. And I certainly don't think he wanted all of them to go and then replace them with one player in Endo. Bear in mind, we were looking at Lavia. Bear in mind, we were looking at Caicedo. It was not Klopp's fault we never got those players. It was the club's. Can we both agree there, Kosai? So now we've got to ask the question, okay, then, well, if Klopp goes, that means you must be so confident in FSG's decision-making to bring in a new coach, which is also logically flawed because we never won anything prior to Jurgen Klopp, and it doesn't look like we're going to even win anything with Jurgen Klopp again. So why are we going to go and get another manager who doesn't have a Premier League with Liverpool, a Champions League with Liverpool, a winning philosophy, a high win percentage, by the way? That's important. And then also, let's think about the long term. I'd say the greater risk is letting go of Jurgen Klopp and getting some waste man. I think that's a greater risk than keeping Jurgen Klopp and building a long-term solution for the football club, a long-term philosophy, a long-term style that comes from the roots of a powerful man like Jurgen Klopp. So people will sit there and say, oh, James, you're going too far. You're loving Jurgen too much. I don't trust the ownership enough to go out and get a new manager. That's my issue. And I'm certainly not one of those fans. Jurgen Klopp's done too much for this team and overachieved too much for this team for me to just want to turn my back on him. I think there's a longer term, greater benefit if we keep hold of him than if we just let him go. So that's what I'm suggesting. It's why I gave you the Bill Shankly thing, because if you were living in that time, 7 years, no trophies, you'd have been losing your shit, brother. And so would have I. But you saw what happens. We ended up getting Bob Paisley. Because imagine if we let go of Shankly, there goes Bob Paisley, there goes Fagan, there goes Dalglish. The history of this football club is different. I think Jurgen Klopp is a man who can change the history of this football club, even with dead owners. That's what I believe. Forever LFC, big up to you. Yes, I understand your point, fella. Big up. But we see there is a problem. We have one of the smallest squads in the Premier League. We haven't got the bodies to cope this season ahead, mate. Okay, that's fine. We both agree. You said there was a but, like that refuted my claim for Forever LFC. We listen, we agree on that. Where we disagree is how much of the blame are we putting to the wrong people? Does that make sense? So if people are going to be putting the majority blame on Klopp, I don't think it matters. If it's still his fault a little bit, fine. But then when people start to question, should he stay or go? That's where I think, well, now we need, if you think he should go, well, that means you have a solution, of course. And I don't think there is one. I don't think there's a simple solution to any of this. Big up to Jamie Phillips, guys. I'll be live with Jamie Phillips today. It's 5 in it, Jamie. 5 o'clock. So go subscribe to his channel. James, do you watch WWE, mate? I don't. I do sometimes, just not as much no more. Harsh says, Klopp is a Liverpool god. A fan who never saw his team win the league for 30 years. Know how much he did for them. Is the GOAT. Respect is centered to his name. And the thing is, it's not just the credit in the bank to why I want to keep Jurgen Klopp. I think Jurgen Klopp is still one of the best coaches in the world, which is why I want him to stay. I don't think the club have managed the resources in the best way, and I don't think we should give Jurgen Klopp majority of control. We've agreed there. So I think the ideal world for Hamez is we have a capable and competent sporting director, and then they give Jurgen Klopp the players and the resources he needs and he wants, and then Jurgen Klopp works with it on the pitch. And then if we do have that one thing and we are getting volume of players and Jurgen Klopp's not getting the results, well, then now we have to start having some conversations. But I certainly don't put my signature on this list of fans who just think, well, a couple of bad seasons, he has to go. I just don't agree with it, because that means you have a solution, and I don't see one of those. Smash a like, by the way, people. We've got 400 people in the stream, which is great for this time of morning, you absolute legends. But it's an interesting conversation, the Jurgen Klopp one. It's definitely one way you can look at it both sides, you know? But I then will still round up the logic of, even if it is Jurgen Klopp's fault, and let's say it's 100% his fault, who employs Jurgen Klopp? Who's deciding to keep him there? You know? It's one of those things. It's like, if you invite a criminal into your home, say this criminal has stole before, well, now you've opened the possibility of someone who's capable and has done a crime of stealing into your home. Well, now if you lose your Coca noodles, you know who it could be. And by the way, you were open to that idea. It was your decision to let them in. The same way it's FSG's decision to let Jurgen Klopp in. So it's still the criminal's fault, but you had enough information to suggest, well, actually, it might not be good enough. So if the owners have that information and they're deciding Klopp should still stay, if Klopp is at 100% fault here, well, then that's an ownership problem, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? So it could be a Klopp problem, still an ownership problem. Klopp will never have what he needs from FSG. Both need to go. And it starts with Klopp walking and exposing FSG. But now we're talking about a very ideal world, Kosai. You're talking about an ideal world where somehow, just because Klopp leaves, this now exposes FSG. Not the case. I don't think Klopp leaving exposes FSG at all. I think it'd make the fans angry at FSG. But I definitely don't think it exposes anything. But that's just my opinion. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be exposed than what hasn't been already. You know, there's a lot of things they've done wrong that seems to get swept under the rug, which is fine. Not fine with me. I'll remember those things. But some fans like to put it aside. They just want to focus on football, which is great. Fantastic. That's what I do. I just live in both worlds. I'm like, okay, I know they're shit and I know they're scumbags, but I'm still going to support my team standard. So, if you can tell me the benefit of letting Jurgen Klopp go first, if that somehow creates this revolutionary thing against FSG and it gets them out the club, and that means we now get better owners, because we've still got to remember FSG's replacement has got to be better than them. So that's important as well. I'm FSG out, but now we've got to get someone who's better than FSG. I don't want just FSG out for some random scouser called Tony who earns 100k a year. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, that's why I'd sit there and say, okay, then what's the benefit there? We need to benefit. Klopp needs to man up. It's a disgrace. Go on then. Well, again, let's analyse the benefit of this. Okay, so he goes on FSG's door. Bang, 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 bang. I want this, this, this. Now, what happens when FSG say, well, we can't do this and that? Now we've got a problem, don't we? Jurgen Klopp, so we are, based on your hypotheses, Jurgen Klopp, who's got 100% control, is now bam, 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 bam. Hiya, Mr. John. I need players. Can you get me X, Y, and Z? Well, actually, X isn't available. Y is on holiday, and Z isn't answering the phone. And yeah, that's why we're not going to get them. All they need to do is provide an excuse. And if they are lying to Jurgen Klopp about the circumstances of the football club, which is very common within bosses and whatnot, then that means, again, we've got to look at the top. You get what I'm saying? So I'm still struggling to see the point from Luke here. Man up in what sense? You know, what does he need to man up in? And then what's the benefit of him being rebellious? Because I think people seem to think that, like, just because he's going to be rebellious, he's now going to be getting everything he wants. Well, he wanted to keep James Milner, and he didn't get to keep James Milner. So we've agreed on two things there. Maybe he shouldn't have control. But even if he did have control, they don't listen to him. So, okay, what's the benefit? Do you get what I'm saying, chat? I'm not just blindly defending him, but I'm providing points, and now I'm waiting for responses. Honestly, Hortensia, and if you're a wrestler, oh yeah, you're talking about thingy. Man said Zidane with these owners. Oh, is someone trying to recommend we could have got Zidane as a replacement? Yeah, that's never going to happen, guys. Luke Sabozlai says, yeah, but he's clearly not doing it, and Klopp won't say it. He'll say it with something big happens, like Conte. Like Conte said, he wasn't being backed properly. Yeah, but he's clearly not doing it. What isn't Klopp doing? What is it that you want Klopp to be doing that he's not doing? Just clarify that point for me, because yeah, what is he doing that you somehow want him to do? Smash those likes, by the way, chat. If you're enjoying the content, if you want more of the morning streams, just interacting means I can do this a little bit more. Big up to everyone who's super chatted so far. We've had Aquila, hey, and Gossai as well. Literally just as I mentioned the super chat. Jinx, you know what I mean. Klopp is the reason why they're right. Let me restart that. Klopp is the reason why we are there and thereabout. So are you saying why we've got to the position that we was? Klopp is the reason. Okay, that's interesting. If he walks, we are in trouble. No manager will keep us afloat. Equals exposing FSG's incompetence. I don't think it does. I disagree with that. So you're saying if Klopp goes, we now go mediocre again, and now this somehow exposes FSG? No, I disagree. 12 months ago, I sat there and I said, I'm really worried about the season ahead. I don't think the signings we've made is good enough. I don't think Darwin Núñez is going to elevate us to the level that we expect him to. And therefore, I actually think we could finish outside top 4. I said this, go and watch Hot Topics a year ago. You'll see me say it at least 2 or 3 times on each show. So last summer, go and check them out just in case you want reference. That being said, when I said this, it was because of years and years and years of decision-making made by FSG, and simultaneous with, I think Klopp's overachieved slightly to suggest, well, actually, I think we might finish outside top 4 this year. I got a lot of shit. I was like, well, James, you're being negative. There's no substance for you to stand on. You've got no leg to stand on when it comes to that. We'll at least get top 4. Stop being ridiculous. I say, fine then. Let's agree with you. Fine, I'll be happy with top 4. We then get 5th, right? So the problem is that you're expecting somehow that FSG wouldn't be able to convince the fans of a new project. Say if we go get De Zerbi, say if De Zerbi does really well with Brighton, then we go get De Zerbi, or say we go get Gerrard. Well, now we've got to back Gerrard because it's the short-term benefit of the football club. That's always the card they play. Well, if it's the short-term benefit, just back him, back us as a club. We're coming back. Don't think they're not going to find a way in a PR sense to spin Jurgen Klopp leaving to something else that it doesn't have to be. I don't think Klopp going achieves this expose of FSG at all. That's why I just disagree with the logic. If you told me there's a benefit of Klopp going away, great. You've tried to tell me a benefit. I don't think it will go that way. So maybe I'd need a bit of a further explanation. Does that make sense, Gossai? And you're saying Klopp is the reason, so he's the only reason? Or are we not attributing anything to above Jurgen Klopp? Is it now Klopp is the only reason why we are where we are? Wait there, are you talking about, in a sense, Premier League and stuff like that? Because I think he was the majority reason for that stuff. But big up to you, Gossai, you're a legend. Luke says, sorry, man, I'm just fuming with the lack of transfer activity. Hate the way our club is being treated. And I agree. This is where we're coming to a common ground here, Luke. I think the owners are scumbags. I think the way they've treated the club is bad. And I think it's became a bit discombobulated, which is now leading to some weird decisions by Jurgen, you know? But that's why they need to take control, take authority of the football club, which is theirs, and realise, like, okay, we need to do more here. Tina Murphy says, no one knows what has been said between Klopp and FSG. We don't need Klopp coming out in public against the owners. That's right. It just doesn't achieve anything. We don't need Klopp to expose what we already know, you know? So, Tina, that's bang on. That would be terrible for all involved with the club. That's right. And now all you've done is give the media a excuse to now put lenses on the football club and say, well, Liverpool, there's fucked up shit going on. So now we're just being the talk of the media and we become the banter club of the country, if we're not already. Honestly, Hortensia, for me, top 3 managers to replace Jurgen Klopp would be Xabi Alonso, Zidane, and Unai Emery. The latter two, Unai Emery, I'd say no. Zidane wouldn't join Liverpool, and Alonso hasn't done enough for me. So I question those 3. But maybe one day, I feel like Alonso is destined to be a great manager, but you never know. To an extent, I'm happy Klopp doesn't publicly shame the owners and the club, but behind closed doors, he should be adamant that he gets more players in. I hear what you're saying. I agree with that. But then what does that achieve? Because we've already established that even if Jurgen Klopp says he wants something, he doesn't always get what he wants. How do we know that he's not in the past said, well, I want this player or this player? Think about it. He wanted Endo a few years ago. He never got Endo. And that's it. You know, he's literally had players refused from him. So we've established the 100% control isn't there. Therefore, whoever is in 100% control or makes these decisions now needs to do more. Bear in mind, we could have got Caicedo and Lavia. The reason why we ended up with Endo is because the club unsuccessfully signed Caicedo and Lavia. It's not a Klopp fault. It's really not a Klopp fault. Klopp is now a necessary evil. I've given up on more than just transfers, just waiting for what the season offers. And this is now a necessary evil. I'd like you to expand more on that, to be honest with you, Mark. I think that's an interesting point. I just don't quite fully understand it. Necessary evil, I assume, is a term that maybe I'm just not getting the grasp of yet. Let me have some of my fucking coffee, mate. Nothing like a morning coffee with a stream with the Redmonds Army, you know what I'm saying? Who thought we'd lose Hendo and Fabinho at the beginning of the window? Saudi's making big moves. The Vega lad moved there, and he's not even established. So they're even talking about the young talent is crazy. Yeah, they even got that Ibanez from Roma, and he's only 23, 24. So they're getting young players as well as old players, that's for sure. Jurgen Klopp talked about Saudi, or he was like the reporters were trying to provoke him about the Saudi situation and like, are you worried and this, that. He just says the obvious, like, listen, it just makes it harder to sign transfers. Before, we only had to worry about the big fish in Europe. Now we're worrying about some whole different entity, which causes us problems. And he definitely fears the fact that the Saudi window is open 3 weeks longer. And that's a game changer. Big up to Kaz D. He says, we have an injury-prone centre-backs. Bar Virgil, Konate's availability is always a concern. This season is going to be a pain. And chat, what is your opinion on the Konate availability? Someone made the point, like, he is injured quite often, and he is our main centre-back. So we don't want a Joe Gomez 2.0 where we're relying on this dude, and then he can't even play. And he had his fair share of injuries at Leipzig as well. So that's definitely a point to take into consideration. You know what I'm saying? Klopp and Liverpool, for me, are the latter years of Arsenal and Wenger. Fourth of best cheap buys. Yeah, to be honest with you, that when you put it like that, in that, simplified summary, I understand. I understand that simplified comparison. Some people use that comparison, and I don't agree. But the way you've just put it, like the spends and the fourth of best, I hear what you're saying. It's like the owners only want top four, which is what your owners wanted. And then the manager was just trying to make do with what they had. It weren't because they were a bad manager, but it was just because the circumstances were really poor. And because their love for the club outweighed any animosity towards the things that go wrong at the club, they were happy to see it through because they felt like they were the best man for the job. And I agree, Klopp is the best man for the job. And I think if Klopp went, we wouldn't see any good results for a long, long time. Honestly, I think we could still sustain top four to a degree. But no, I just would not feel confident at all. Klopp actually turned down Mane at Dortmund because of Mane's hairstyle. What? Really? This man cannot be trusted with transfer dealings. Is that actually factual? I can't claim if that's real or not. Because of his hairstyle. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but fair play. He was like, fuck that hairline. He's going to be blinding the players on the fucking pitch. Klopp, we ain't having none of it, mate. He was like, nah, you need to go and get that sorted out. Get to Turkey or something, Sadio, lad. You know what I mean? Like, not only is the yellow kit of Dortmund blinding enough, but your baldy head as well. The fans won't be able to fucking see after the game. They'll be blind as fuck. Is it actually true? If so, if that's true, that's interesting because he did also have Aubameyang, which is why I question it. That's why I question it. But we still agree, though, even if that's true or not, we both agree we definitely shouldn't let Jurgen Klopp be in control of the transfers. Why? Because he's a coach. He's certainly not a scout, and he's certainly not someone who identifies players. And think about how much time he has in the week to find players and scout players. Probably not much. Like, focus on the players you've got. Like, go and check up on them. Be the best man manager to them. And let the board of directors and the negotiators and the CEOs do the bit that they need to do, the database team. There's a reason why Liverpool have a database team. The database team are there to identify players in one department, right? So it's not just Jurgen Klopp. And Jurgen Klopp isn't the scout, guys. We need to establish this. But yes, can he go out there with an outside shout? Like, can I get this? Like, I know you guys usually control everything, but am I all right to get this? And that's what Endo was. It was like, you guys fucked up on Caicedo and Lavia. Can you just get me what I think's best for my team? Just because I just want to be able to have one sort of say. And even had to beg for Endo. So I don't know where we're getting this narrative. Klopp has 100% control on dealings. And nor should he have 100% control on dealings, no doubt. Smash those likes, people. Big up to everyone who's in the stream. Jamie Phillips has sent a super chat. Big up to you, mate. Big up, mate. Like and subscribe, people. Klopp in, FSG out. And throw Big George out the building. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. I feel our ass on George Gomanska. I don't want him to stay. I don't think he's filled out for the job he's He's a little friggin' release clause merchant. Chat WRL. Shkamatka being a release clause merchant. But seriously, yeah, that's right. That's right. But I do feel bad for him because he does get a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Like, he came into the worst circumstances going. Big up to you, Jamie, and I'll see you in a bit, lads. Defo, people go subscribe to Jamie. That's his channel right there. What was just on the screen then, so go subscribe to him and you'll see me on there later. Short memories, we were chasing the quadruple the year before last. We have had one bad season and the quadruple chasing last season are not unrelated. In Klopp we trust. That's right. That's right. And that season, chat WRL, did we not have a big squad? I'll answer it for you. We did. We had options all over the squad. You know, if we weren't going with our starting midfield, we still had the availability of the likes of KONATE, Oxlade, even though they were injured for a bit of that season. One of them, I think Oxlade actually was fifth for the fair amount that season. KONATE not so much. But we still had options. Harvey was growing, Curtis was growing. We had a lot of options in midfield, a lot of options in attack, and then a lot of options in defence. Especially when Diaz came in, when we got that extra attacker, which is what we needed, that was when our attack looked boss, because then that's where we elevated from a decent team in the Prem to now competing for all 4 trophies, which was huge. So we've saw that if Jurgen Klopp has his players and he has a big squad, we go and achieve great things across all fronts. But when he has a small squad, he doesn't. So yeah, I doubt someone as who's had as many injuries done to a squad as Jurgen Klopp has would sit there and say, I want a small team. But he does sit there and say he likes a small squad, doesn't he? Which is weird. So I don't agree with him on that. I definitely don't agree with him on that. It doesn't make sense. The owners need to sit there and say, no, Klopp, you need more players. We get injuries every fucking season, mate. You know what I mean? Man United have got 34 players in their squad this year. We have friggin' 200, sorry. We have friggin' 23. I don't know why 200 came to me head. I think we definitely need a good sporting director. That's right. I agree. Klopp should be left to focus on coaching. I agree. And then if the coach, say if we're getting all the volume of players that the sporting director and the club believe is good enough, and Klopp is licensed and all these signings, but Klopp isn't doing the job as the coach, well, now we need to sit there and say, well, yeah, you know what I mean? He needs to go. He's not doing enough. But that's why we need a sporting director. We've seen when Klopp gets a good scout next to him, there's great things that happen. Honestly, Hortensia, Bum George is stealing a payday. He don't even go and meet the players. He does everything from Ibiza. Fair play to him. He's came here, he's got a free job for 3 months, and he's just winging it, you know what I mean? So got to respect man like George. In Klopp, we trust. How can we see Klopp not doing anything to boost our squad? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, brother. You know, you can't have blind faith in Klopp, but you can certainly believe in what he's achieved, and he's got a resume beyond belief at Liverpool, so that's important. We now have a worse squad than last season. That is what we call a rebuild. That's what we call a rebuild. You fucking know that. You know that. You know that, son. That's what Liverpool do. That's the Liverpool way right there, chat. James, if Konate's injury rules him out for multiple games, who would you start out of Matip or Gomez? I'm Matip every single day of the week. Chat, are you Matip or Gomez starting? What's your preference? The reason we had a bad season last year is hanging on to the players for too long. That is our main issue. Okay, then. Well, let's break that down. I disagree. I think we had a huge midfield problem last season because the likes of KONATE didn't work out. Now, I would say KONATE was a Klopp signing, because Klopp spoke about KONATE publicly even before we signed KONATE. So KONATE didn't go well. Oxlade didn't go well. Why? We couldn't get any offers for either player. It weren't because Klopp just wanted to keep them blindly. KONATE, yes. Oxlade, not as much. So we had a huge problem last season in terms of midfield depth. And think about the contradictory of Jurgen Klopp saying, I don't want midfielders. And then 2 weeks later, we sign Arthur Melo. Do you think Jurgen Klopp banged on FSG's door and said, I want Arthur Melo? Because I don't think that'd be something logical to you, especially when he's originally said he doesn't want midfielders. So is this his opinion, his contradicting thoughts, or is it maybe someone telling him what to say? Or is it someone encouraging him what to say? So yeah, if they ask this question, do you know these managers get briefed? If you think the managers do not get briefed before these press conferences and they don't get told what to say, or at least encouraged what to say, well, then you are kind of now being a bit closed-minded. You need to be more open-minded to know, like, listen, there's briefings before these press conferences. They do get encouraged on what to say. If they not, do you think Klopp was there on Twitter prior to the press conference, like in case they ask about Caicedo, I need to know what's going on? No. It's just the club said, by the way, this is the situation with Caicedo. They're probably going to ask about it. Speak about it. It's going to make the fans happy. So, yeah, that's also an important piece of information. Rachild, Allah does not beget, and Prophet Jesus is only a man. Oh, a religious comment. Well, fair play that you're a Muslim, sir. If you'd ever actually want to have a conversation, I have Instagram, and on Instagram, we can have a discussion about stuff like that. I think it's always productive to have discussion regarding those things. But no, big up to you, sir, and I hope that you feel stronger and stronger every day as you go on your spiritual journey. You know what I'm saying? Just because we have different beliefs doesn't mean that I'm upset with comments like that. I absolutely respect people who have something to follow and have something to think. You know what I'm saying? Big up to you, sir. Big up to you. Massive shout out to Harsh, Man United. Man, as a United fan, I can relate. Our both LBS left backs. Yeah, our left backs are injured. We are playing Arsenal next week, and it will be tough for us. Maybe get destroyed. Horror times incoming. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, bro. Yeah, United with Luke Shaw, that's a huge problem. He's kind of one thing that I respect about Luke Shaw, though. He always comes back and does fine post injury. You know what I'm saying? I like Nat Phillips, but playing a centre back without pace is a system of suicide in this system, especially. Great point, Hugo. This is very similar to Wenger's latter years. Why has my floor like just started shaking? My floor just like rumbled for a second. I was like, "Whoa, there is there an earthquake?" I just can't understand why Mr. Klopp, FSG, and Top Red see this team differently from most of our fans. Yeah, it's strange. Well, it's a good thing the fans don't, do anything in the club terms of decision making. But yeah, they're not doing the best decision making either, so that's important. James, who would you like to see? This question was asked before. I'm not sure. I'd have to see when he goes. If he was to leave tomorrow, I wouldn't mind pushing for De Zerbi. I think De Zerbi would be fine, but I don't think it's an upgrade. Who's your Salah replacement at the end of the season? A Chiesa-like player, like Chiesa-like, not Chiesa himself, but Chiesa-like player. Someone like Diaby, someone like Chiesa, someone who's going to come into the system and adhere to the team. We regularly get injuries, have AFCON and Asia Cup this season. We have the smallest squad size in the league, going to be a rough season. Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially if we don't make any more additions. Not even one more addition. Oh, that could be a problem. James had call back from Martin Skirtle. Get fucking Martin Skirtle and Lucas Leiva back in the squad. Lucas Leiva could play CDM. Lucas Leiva was actually sick for Lazio after he left us. He actually went back and became a baller in the Italian league. I'd rather play him over my beloved Giraffe Matip. Oh, don't say that about the Cameroonian legend. Are you fucking crazy? No, you're probably right though. Probably the same age in like terms of physical body. Skirtle looks like much younger now as well. If you clock that chat, like the way he just looks friggin' young as fuck. Klopp will be gone after the season if he doesn't walk before then. Possibly, definitely not out of the realms. But I doubt he'll go. I think he's going to be here for a couple more seasons. I think he'll finish his contract, bro. You've spunked near $1 billion. We couldn't give an extra 5 mil for Lavia. We are not the same. Sorry, bro, you've spanked near $1 billion. Oh, sorry, are you speaking to a Chelsea fan? Because I know you ain't speaking to me. Because I know we ain't spunked $1 billion on anything. It hurts thinking about letting Mo go, even for crazy money. But everyone knows what happened the last time we sold a player for more than 100 million. We were more successful. There's a greater benefit there. You know what I mean? It's not like if Mo goes, we're absolutely fucked. People seem to think like, how does one player replace most goals? No, we get more goals collectively throughout the team. Like the way we had Coutinho, Firmino, Salah and Mane all banging when they first got together. Coutinho left in January, but that was an insane front four. That would just score, boss. Then Coutinho went. How do we replace Coutinho's creativity? There's no player in the world who can replace Coutinho's creativity. Well, it turns out we didn't have to. In fact, we changed from having a cam or a left centre midfielder who was playing as a cam to more box-to-box in Gini Wijnaldum. Imagine Gini Wijnaldum being the upgrade on Coutinho. He weren't, but systematically it worked out. So if Klopp goes, we can now get a right winger who's more systematically adhering to the team, which yes means we get less goals from a right winger, but we get more goals from striker, more goals from left wing, and more goals from midfield. There's definitely something to work with, and Klopp is a genius when it comes to working with problems and changes here and there. So yeah. At least the Glazers spend. Stop whining about our owners. Yeah, there's a difference between Man United fans want the Glazers to spend their own money. I don't want FSG to spend their own money. I want FSG to spend the money they're generating from this football club, which they don't fucking do. And the Glazers have seemed to have given Ten Hag everything he wants, maybe bar an additional midfielder. But otherwise, like, he's got everything he needs and more. Like, Klopp would never get a player like Casemiro. Would never get a player like Casemiro. FSG would never do that for him. Whereas it's different. It's absolutely different. Oh, but chat, you know what, boys and girls? I feel like I'm going to end it there. That was a productive stream, very good stream. We're going to be doing more content. There's going to be a Newcastle preview out on the channel in the next couple of hours. And then there's also going to be a Redmond roundup. And then there's going to be the night stream. So you've got plenty of content with your boy Hamez. Oh, but I need the toilet though, chat. So I am going to end this a bit abruptly. So I will see you all later and say a fucking nara. Adios.